All right, the data will set us all free. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. Start with a big thank you to Charlie, Joel, Alex. Really appreciate the chance to speak amongst the group here. And really thank you to all of you for what you do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, this group is accountable for managing tens to hundreds of thousands of patients. And by the impact that you're having on your fellows, your residents, it's really millions of people. So just thank you for what you're doing here on a day-to-day basis. My disclosures are that I'm a Zimmer Biomet employee and I have research funding from the institutions listed here. All right, so I'm gonna be less than 8 minutes. We're gonna get 3 key messages across, and I think you will walk away from this talk agreeing with me on all 3 of these, but if you don't, please find me and tell me that after the talk. 95% of the things that we do on a daily basis today are heavily subjective and not data-driven. And if you don't agree with me on this one, I'm gonna have to just agree to disagree, because I think by the fortune of having had the opportunity to think about this talk and prepare for it, I'm going to prove you wrong here. Objectifying the episode of care can and will make things more efficient, more reproducible, and has the opportunity to lead to better outcomes. And lastly, it's easier said than done. This is a hard path, guys. I mean, you might see it with ChatGPT today, but it's a hard path from a healthcare standpoint. Tim kind of brought it up with the path around regulatory and the complexity with all the things that we have to deal with in healthcare. ZB is on that journey, and the path is about as exciting as anything that will happen in our lifetime. I truly believe that. All right, so you see all these buzzwords all the time: artificial intelligence, AI, personalized care, big data, Internet of Things, e-learning, e-mobility. I mean, it's all buzzwords if it's not really addressing a problem that we see today. If it's not addressing a customer problem, a problem for us as surgeons, a problem for our patients. And I think that's the key thing here, that you can't develop a technology and just roll it out into the market and say, hey, we're gonna roll it out and be successful because it's sexy. We have to address a real problem. And so, in medicine, I think even going through medical school, most of us probably heard this statement: it's an art, not a science, right? We've heard that at some point. But does it always have to be an art? Shouldn't it be more scientific sometimes? If you think about today, how do you decide when to recommend a hip or knee replacement? Well, they have arthritis on the x-ray, they come in complaining of pain. How much pain is the right amount of pain? How much arthritis is the right amount of arthritis? How do you decide when a patient should have a partial or a total knee replacement? I mean, probably heavily today, it's do you do partial knee replacements? And I realize we're at the AHF, but do you do partials? Do you do totals? Oh, I see a little bit of lateral joint space narrowing. I'm gonna go ahead and do a total. How do you decide if an implant's loose, necessitating a revision? Well, you line up 4 x-rays, 4 years of x-rays, you put them on next to each other, you and your resident, your fellow, your assistants, looking at it and saying, hey, I see some radiolucency here, I think it's loose. Can you believe that? That's the way we do things today. I mean, it seems kind of crazy. How do you decide how tight or loose to leave a knee replacement? I was watching a live surgery with an esteemed surgeon about a month ago, and he was talking about how he likes it, how he likes it. I was thinking, how reproducible is that from surgeon to surgeon? How do you, if you're doing John Vigdorchik's spinal pelvic angles, how do you decide, what part of the end plate on the spine to put it on? And if, one little change can change 3, 4, 5 degrees. How do you decide if a patient should have another injection or should have a total knee? How do you decide if someone should see you or your PA? I mean, that's an efficiency issue. We would all love to see only patients that need surgery, right? Well, how do you decide, you probably have a scheduler asking some basic questions, but maybe it should be more complicated than that. How do you decide when to stop broaching? You can go one more size up, guys, one more size up, come on, man up, right? Or I guess you don't have to man up, you press the button, right? How do you decide if that osteoporotic 92-year-old should have a cementless stem or a cemented stem? I mean, these are all real questions, this stuff happens. And I know Joel said earlier, come on, the risk of fracture is so low in today's modern hip stems. And I agree with that, but maybe certain patients should have a different stem size. And so it's this concept of efficient, reproducible, potentially better outcomes. What if every patient you saw had an immediate AI-driven assessment of a 10-year success of total joint replacement based on the x-ray, based on preoperative questions, and if they weren't a candidate for surgery, they were sent back to the PCP or the PA, What if you were able to personalize care for every patient easily, like, really easily, not having to do things differently? And so, whether it be the right inclination or an anteversion on a cup or, whatever the measurement is, doing it without taking those measurements and inputting it into a tool. And what if painful total joints were evaluated in an automated fashion with precision data, assessing motion of implants versus you lining things up like that, right? And so, the current arthroplasty workflow from diagnosis, assessment, all the way through the whole ecosystem down to post-surgical evaluation, it's fraught with error. And honestly, that error comes from us. It's reliant on us making those decisions each time. And boy, maybe it shouldn't be. Could we fix that? Make that more objective? So this is I'm gonna excuse me because some of these slides come from John Vigdorchik and Peter Skolko, and he did this study looking at early revision total hip arthroplasties and kind of 380 revisions, 51% avoidable, and they're avoidable because based on things that could be avoided: instability, mechanical complications, aseptic loosening, fractures. And so if you look at that across the United States, 52,000 revision total hips, 50% avoidable. Maybe there's 26,000 avoidable operations, right? And so this is kind of ultimately this is the value prop for the patient. Whether you're with Charlie, phenomenal surgeon, expert, just an expert surgeon. Whether you're with Alex, again, same expert surgeon, or HSS, or at Tuscaloosa Orthopedics. No fault of Tuscaloosa, guys, I'm not ripping on them. But could you have the same success? Could we make this more reproducible? So, it's this whole old paradigm of what do you call the last person who what do you call the person who graduates last in their medical school class? Well, they call them a doctor, right? So how do we make it excellent for the patient regardless? And so for the provider, there's lots of value propositions. We can provide the best care for our patients, and ultimately we all want to do that. But there's probably value propositions around efficiency. This didn't end up happening at this amount, but originally it was projected to be a 4.5% decrease in reimbursement by CMS, and this got changed ultimately, but it will continue to be pressured in a downward direction. And so this concept of knee outcome prediction, surgical decision-making, objective measurements of joint space, decisions around partial, total, whether they even need surgery, right? So predicting failure, whether they will actually be successful if they have a joint replacement. And the concept of not only is it X-ray based, but clinical data and demographic data, clinical data, questionnaires to ultimately lead to a successful understanding of whether the patient should proceed with the surgery. And you could adapt this to risk of periprosthetic fracture. So patients who are having hip surgery, and maybe based on femoral bone anatomy or femoral bone, the cortical index, the cortical thickness, you can decide whether to do a specific stem or another stem, right? Maybe there are certain patients that would benefit from an ML taper or an Actis or an Avenir Complete or whatever the stem is that would maybe be more tailored to their anatomy. But are we capable of making that decision today? I agree with what's been said previously, which is the risk of periprosthetic fracture is low today, but maybe it should be zero. Why not, right? Let's aim for zero. Ultimately, radiographic inputs are critical in assessing in predictive modeling for patient outcomes. You layer in the clinical data on top of that, and you can start to get really specific on ultimately what you can assess a patient's success to be at 10 years. And so the implications of AI in healthcare are exciting, right? ChatGPT passed the USMLE. What does this mean for us and how we actually take care of patients? And so I decided to ask ChatGPT the question. And so I asked ChatGPT to essentially do this presentation for me. I said, please tell me how data and AI could improve outcomes in joint replacement surgery. Yes, data and AI can play a significant role in improving outcomes, yada, yada. Preoperative planning, AI algorithms can analyze patient data and medical images to assist surgeons in preoperative planning, intraoperative guidance, postoperative monitoring, postoperative monitoring tracking, predictive modeling. It said how it's going to help us. How awesome is that? Without me providing any input. So we're on this path at ZB, this concept of connecting preoperative to intraoperative to postoperative and taking that data to make us smarter, better, and faster. And this is something that we released recently. Ultimately, to do this, you need connected data sets and data sets that have quality data that connects from that preoperative time frame to the intraoperative to the postoperative. And so this is the first product that released, first AI product that we released called Walk AI, based on data from 60,000 patients that went through our My Mobility platform. And it personalized predictions based on lower relative gait speed earlier in the postoperative time frame. So at 14 days, predicting lower relative gait speed at 90 days, identifying essentially patients that were at risk for a subpar outcome. And so the earlier speaker referenced our Persona IQ technology, and that's the first smart implant in orthopedics. And it's capturing objective, kinematic, patient-specific data up to 10 years, really around the same path, which is this is objective data. Are our patient-reported outcome measures really what we should be going after? You know, if I got in a fight with my wife this morning, if I got fired from my job today, and I go take a PROM, I'm probably gonna end up with a different score than if I won the lottery, right? And how crazy is that? I would love to objectify that entire episode of care. So our roadmap strategies, we're taking predictive analytics from things like Walk AI, 60,000 patients, and our ROSA cases, and bringing that into the operating room. Essentially, knowing the outcome of your surgical decisions before you make them, and we feel that that's kind of the game-changing path. So I told you I wanted to come across with 3 key messages. Number 1, 95% of the things we do today are heavily subjective and not truly data-driven. I think you can see that based on what we went over. Objectifying the episode of care can and will make things more efficient, more reproducible, and has the opportunity to lead to better outcomes. And we're on the journey, and it's easier said than done, but we're excited to do it. Thank you guys so much.